Well, it's the 813 from Ybor City to the Channel District. We're just over 48 hours from kickoff to start Super Bowl 55, and while the causeway is less congested, the waterways have fewer wakes, the excitement is at peak level for a championship that'll be decided between the greatest quarterback ever and the one guy that many think will have a shot to take his crown. As we welcome you in to Super Bowl Today, presented by Uber Eats. Mike Garafolo, Matt Money Smith here. Mike, 3 is the magic number. Yes, it is our third and final Super Bowl Today show. And I got to ask, is the heart racing a little bit knowing that you're going to put a prediction up on the board come the end of this show? I don't know how you could possibly sit still.
Yeah, if there's anybody that should be nervous right now, it's nobody on the Buccaneers or the Chiefs. It's us. It's the folks in the business, because the internet doesn't forget. And if you go one way and the game goes the other way, you're going to hear about it. So, yeah, a little bit of pressure on us right now, Money.
And if you go the way that the game goes, nobody cares.
Nobody
we get to right, no, exactly. Nobody cares. Let's get to some breaking news. Speaking, or at least recent news, we'll call it, because speaking to the media Thursday from Tampa, Roger Goodell admitted he has no idea what next season could bring, citing uncertainty surrounding stadium attendance allowances in 2021, whether or not players would still need to be tested daily for COVID concerns. The commish mentioned he doesn't, quote, know when normal will occur again. But he did point out, and he's absolutely accurate about this, the league has figured out solutions and working in an extremely difficult environment and is confident they would be able to do so. Again, some immediate news and some good news. Heck, it's actually great news for the Chiefs. Receiver Demarcus Robinson has been cleared to practice today. He has been on that reserve COVID-19 list since Monday because of a close contact with that barber that tested positive. Robinson has tested negative every single day and will be eligible to play in Super Bowl 55. And that brings us to our first bit of analysis. And, well, it's obvious. Can the Chiefs and will the Chiefs go back-to-back? Can they? Yes. Will they? Well, that's the question, because you look here in NFL history, it's not easy. It has been since 2003 and 2004 since we have had a repeat champion. And interesting little nugget on that, it was the 2004 Patriots that defeated the Andy Reid coached Eagles to win back-to-back Super Bowls. So maybe Andy Reid can repay the favor to Tom Brady and keep that repeat streak, get that repeat streak going again. What do you think, Mike, if you can put a finger on something the biggest obstacle is for the Chiefs to repeat?
Yeah, it's the repeat gods. You know, they tend to strike at these moments, and just a lot of teams have been weeded out before this point. I understand it's, we're at the Super Bowl and it's just one game here, but listen, the Seahawks were on what, the 4-yard line, the 3-yard line?
Yeah.
And then they tried to throw that pass for some reason. I just feel like those repeat gods jump up at some point, because it's just so hard to do in the salary cap era. So if you're asking me what the Chiefs need to do to make sure that they can repeat here and be the first team to do so in 16, 17 years, I would say it's that. Yeah, do whatever you can to appease those gods so that they don't jump up and strike on Super Bowl Sunday. Now, interesting, because there is a connection. Tom Brady tried to repeat against the Eagles a couple of years ago, and, all of a sudden, strip sack from Brandon Graham. These things tend to happen late in games. So whatever Andy Reid and the Chiefs need to do to appease those gods, do it.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go with, kind of the topic that has been the most pressing, I think, for the Chiefs and what would prevent them, and that's the Bucs pass rush. It's the old Ernie Accorsi adage. 1, you need a quarterback. 2, you need a bunch of players that can get to the quarterback, and that's how you win games, and certainly that worked for the Giants when they knocked off the Patriots twice. The Bucs, well, they got both. I know the Chiefs have not lost many games, but at least the ones that have been close the last couple seasons, they're teams that can get home with 4 pass rushers, and the Bucs. And I think a lot of people were surprised how many snaps that Vita Vea played last week. And I think people, when they go back and watch that game, with perhaps a close eye on that defensive line, they'll recognize how much difference he makes, because the Bucs with Vita Vea, they pressure quarterbacks 33% of the time. Their sack percentage has doubled with him on the field, 10% sack rate. And if you just do the simple math there, 1 out of every 10 dropbacks, you get a sack. 1 out of every 3, you're putting pressure on the passer. And that certainly is probably the best way to prevent the Chiefs from repeating, is put Patrick Mahomes under pressure without having to blitz, because we certainly know what those numbers look like, Mike. It's ridiculous. It's a quarterback rating of 135 and like 15 touchdowns to no interceptions if you got to blitz the guy.
There's no question about that, and we've talked about his ability to see the blitz before it's coming. So if that guy doesn't get home because he just got blocked or something, that's one thing. But if he doesn't get home because he knows he's coming, that's even more dangerous because he knows where the vacated area is going to be.
Well, we know, kind of when Tom Brady got to that second, third Super Bowl, the comparison started with Joe Montana. Now he has since surpassed Joe Montana. Nobody denies, though, that Montana, one of the greatest to ever lace him up. Joe Cool, 4-time Super Bowl winner, never lost a Super Bowl. He's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and talked about Tom Brady's bizarre diet and amazing career earlier with Colleen and Mooch on Super Bowl Live.
You played a long time and you won 4 Super Bowls, but maybe if you would have ate some avocado ice cream like Tom Brady, instead of eating those cheeseburgers at halftime, you would have played longer. Did you have any quirks that with your eating habits like Tom Brady does right now?
No, the only thing I did is I tried not to eat a lot before the game. Because there was a study, for some reason, I don't know where it came from, that said that your reaction time is better if your stomach is not completely full or not completely empty, but yet better on the more empty side than full. So I didn't eat a lot. And so the cheeseburgers actually came after the game because everybody knew I was starving. And it started with the security guard went up to Mr. DeBarlow's and got me a double cheeseburger one time. And his box made the best cheeseburgers of anywhere around. And until the linemen found out, and then they started stealing my cheeseburger. Well, then I had to hide it.
So, Joe, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask this question because you won 4 Super Bowls. You're one of the greatest to ever play the position. So can you put into perspective for us this run that Brady is on, now playing in his 10th Super Bowl? I think it's hard to put it into context, into real time, just the way that he has been able to play and continue to perform at this level. But for you, how do you really look at him and what he's been able to accomplish in his career?
Well, I think it's amazing. I think it's not so much how long he's playing, but the success also that he's had on top of it. I think you put those two together, and it's kind of unmatched. If you look at guys who got to Super Bowls, I mean, look how many that Jim Kelly got to, and everybody forgets about how many he went to. Unfortunately, they didn't win. But, it takes a lot to get there. And it takes a lot to win. And, he's done it on both sides. He's gotten there a number of times, and he's won a bunch of times. So it's he's outshining just about anybody in the past. And all the way back to maybe Otto Graham, who won 10 or 11 championships before there were Super Bowls. But other than that, he's making a mockery of everything else. But the guy he's playing today or on Sunday, if anybody can catch him, that guy can. He's got an opportunity. He's very young and very, very talented.
Joe, I wish we could talk about this for the next hour, maybe the next 4 hours that we're here, but we can't. We're running out of time here. I know that you are working with Guinness, so I just want to know how many virtual pints should we have after the show? Like 3 of us.
We can get you as many as you like, but it's been fun doing this past GOAT commercial, and really isn't, it's just trying to figure out, what it takes to be the greatest of all time and what it's like. But the real point about it is we've all had a tough year, and it's about being resilient and fighting our way back. And that if we really look, that there's a GOAT inside of all of us. And those people who realize it need to reach out and find that in themselves and reach out to the people around and try to make the people around them realize that, hey, listen, we've got this. Let's just take it one day at a time, and we'll get through this all together. And, they can maybe enjoy one of the greatest pints of all time, Guinness, together.
Well, I'll say this. There are some times, Mike, when we come out of those interviews and the product that the player is pushing does not get my taste buds alive and alert. But hearing Joe talk about a pint of Guinness, and I think so many people don't know because of its dark color and the hue, how refreshing that pint of Guinness is. And
it's actually not. It's not a heavy-bodied beer. It's actually a very light beer. So I agree with you completely on that. And I'd like one right now. But we'll finish the show first.
Perhaps after this, as this is our third and final show, we will enjoy one together virtually. All right, let's get to our next topic here on Super Bowl Today, presented by Uber Eats, and that is the biggest obstacle. Joe Montana, they're talking about Tom Brady and how remarkable it is what he's doing at age 43. But what does the entire offense have to do to overcome? What do they have to overcome obstacle-wise to win Super Bowl 55?
You know, they can run the ball. They can throw it. They've got weapons. I think the only thing that they come unhinged in my mind as I go through this game is if they go into this game feeling like they're going to have to outscore the Chiefs, right? That you're going to play at their pace even before that pace is set. Now, that's interesting because, and I didn't realize this until I saw it the other day, blew my mind. In all of Tom Brady's Super Bowls with the Patriots, a total of 3 points for them total in the first quarter of all 9 of those games. Incredible. The Eagles game, they kicked the field goal early on. That is remarkable. That's not going to work on this one. Going to have to get off to a faster start. Going to have to play from head. Going to have to do what you did against the Packers, where you came out and not only did you score on the first drive, but you did it so well. The execution was phenomenal. Get off to that kind of a start and establish that we're not going to beat ourselves today. I think that's the most important thing. And then all of a sudden, now you open up the entire playbook and you can maybe do it at your pace. Now, look, we've seen this Chiefs team go down early in playoff games and then come roaring back. So you're going to have to rely on your defense, too, to make sure that all of a sudden you don't just look up and they put up 24 in the second quarter. But I think that that's the biggest thing. Don't get out of your own head here and play the game that you want to play.
Yeah, and look, I think for me it's the idea of limiting possessions, right? I mean, that's what do you want to do to beat the Chiefs offense? You know, like you said, okay, you don't want to match their scoring output, so limit their scoring output. And, you know, everybody gets excited, right? The analytics crew, Brian Daboll didn't run the ball at all in the first half. Isn't this great? Well, yeah, that's great unless you're playing the Chiefs. And to me, you got to have clock-consuming drives. If you can somehow dial back their offensive possessions from, let's say, 11 to 9 or 9 to 8, then maybe you find yourself in the fourth quarter in a one-possession game, and whoever has the ball last is the team that gets out victorious. I mean, we saw Leonard Fournette, and you talked about this yesterday and really have throughout the week, Mike, and that is that Leonard Fournette wasn't sure what his role was going to be, how he was going to fit in, if he was going to fit in, if he was going to be long for Tampa, or if this was going to be Ronald Jones' show. And now we've seen, with the emergence of Fournette, they have 2 legitimate backs that they can lean on, and you can keep, as the players like to call it, MC Fresh Legs. And when someone gets tired, you bring the other guy in, and you just give them a heavy dose. You know, Byron Leftwich and Bruce Aaron give them a heavy dose of the ground game. It's not a great defense up front in terms of slowing the run down, and boy, that would be just a perfect way, especially with the play action that Tom Brady loves using, and you mentioned yesterday, it's just a thing of beauty when it's operating at max efficiency. That to me is what's going to be first, foremost, middle, after, ending, you name it. They're going to have to do a whole lot of this with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette to get out of there with the win.
I love you referencing my talking points. It means you've been listening. That's great. That's always a good thing. You know, I don't know if we took a quiz on what each other said this week, I would hope that I would pass it, Money, but you definitely passed this one, my friend.
Well, look, there's a reason why all the analysis has so much enthusiasm and so much gesticulating, because it's going to be a heck of a game. So many different ways and paths to victory for each of these teams. And when we return, we're going to get expert analysis as the league's leading receiver, Stephon Diggs, drops by to discuss all the premier pass catchers playing in this one. As we get you back to Super Bowl today, presented by Uber Eats, you see the boats docked, ready to take out revelers on the open water. What a joy. A lot of folks wearing capri pants, maybe some flip-flops, making their way around Tampa. Thunderstorms in the forecast for Sunday, so I would say for those of you that are descending on the 813, enjoy it while you can. After getting traded to Buffalo last offseason, Stephon Diggs lit it up for Bills Mafia in 2020. 127 receptions for 1,535 yards. Each were the most in the NFL. And Diggs dropped in on Good Morning Football to discuss why his quarterback, Josh Allen, should be mentioned in the same breath as the other elite passers, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes.
This weekend in the Super Bowl, it's going to be all about Mahomes and Brady. You know, Aaron Rodgers is a legend. Lamar Jackson has won an MVP. What about your guy? What about Josh Allen? Right now, where does number 17 fit into this whole NFL quarterback hierarchy?
I feel like I had a different view from everybody. So he had an elite year for me. Coming from my perspective, seeing the grind, seeing the time that he put in, he had an elite year. Of course, he's going to get lost in the traffic a little bit just because of those guys. People love Lamar Jackson. People love Aaron Rodgers. Great talents, guys that have been playing some good ball as of a couple of years. And Aaron Rodgers' whole career, he's been playing hell of a game. So he's one of those guys that definitely going to go in the Hall of Fame. And my guy will get lost a little bit, but he plays some elite football, and I just want people to appreciate it, appreciate some good quarterback play, because he had a hell of a year, and people are just going to don't just forget about him. Now, he had a hell of a year. You know, please consider him as your MVP because he is mine.
This year, you took your game to a whole new level, bro. You was already kind of like right there at the top, but then this year, man, you just went off the chain, right? So tell us, should your name be consistently considered amongst the league's best wide receivers going forward?
Yeah, it's all opinionated for everybody. For me, personally, I feel like I've always been respected by my peers for what I do. And as far as ranking, it's easy to go, this is the best wide receiver, this is the guy. But right now it's about numbers. You know, this year I proved that I should be in the league conversation. Who I am, I always consider myself one of the best receivers in the game. And the pen and paper got a match for me. You know, it wasn't enough for me to just say that I was one of the best receivers or you know, I think about myself that way. It's not enough. I need the pen and paper. I need it to match. I need my craft to catch up with the numbers. So I was just trying to do my job. I feel like my team was a passing heavy team. It's all predicated on what kind of team you have as well. You could be on a run heavy team and there's not too many balls going around. So for me, I was just trying to have success at a high level and, you know, do my job. But it ended up shaking out that, at least, you know, I'm gonna be in the conversation in everybody's mind. You can't forget about me.
Stephon, this weekend with the Chiefs, who you said beat you fair and square, they're in another Super Bowl. There's going to be a lot of talk about dynasty. So I want to talk about the dynasty, specifically Old Spice dynasty, and the way you are telling people and then empowering them the right to smell good and have confidence in all that they do.
Yeah, this year has been a tough year for everybody, especially men. I can't speak for women. Women pretty take good care of themselves, but men, on the other hand, we could sit on the couch for days and, you know, barely put on deodorant. So for me, this is something that I could somewhat connect. Somewhat connect with. I'm big on hygiene. Everybody know me. I'm big on hygiene. I actually was supposedly one of the most feminine on my last team because I take good care of myself and, you know, floss and stuff like that. So for me, this is something that I can. And it's cologne-like quality. So when you put it on, you will smell nice. And something, if I'm wearing it, you should at least look into it.
Oh, sorry. Just checking myself there. It is, you know, whenever I see someone talking, I just got to make sure sometimes. You just got to.
Listen, you scared me. I don't want to pull down the fourth wall too often, but I got to do it here. We've had technical difficulties. Money couldn't hear me for the entire first segment, okay, because operator error on my part. So, yeah, it had me nervous for a second. But go ahead. What'd you come up with? What smelling notes did you get there?
You know, I could probably have Diggs drop by. And maybe drop a little something off. Again, maybe I'm just sweating it because I got to make the pick at the end of this show, and it's freaking me out a little bit. So I'm slightly right, but it's a good thing I'm at the home studio. Mike, we do Be Prepared, presented by Castrol Edge, and we talk about Super Bowl X factors. Is there a player, let's start with the Chiefs, a Chiefs player that you think could play a huge role that not enough people are talking about?
Yeah, Daniel Sorensen. They call him Dirty Dan, and that's because of how he plays football, by the way. And in the playoffs, the last couple of years for Kansas City, he's really shown up. He had an interception of Tom Brady, by the way, in the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. Also had 14 tackles in that game. A couple other games, 8 tackles again. Had the forced fumble and the rule that people don't love in this last game, the game before that against the Browns where the ball went through the end zone there. He's had a couple of tackles for loss, some quarterback hits as well. He does a little bit of everything. And if it's the postseason lately, Dirty Dan is showing up and he's letting his presence be known. So keep an eye, see if he makes a big play here in this game on Sunday.
Well, I'm going to go other side of the football and perhaps a name. And look, none of us know the health of Sammy Watkins, but we know he's starting to appear to look like he's going to play. And there's a reason why the Chiefs were willing to pay him the money to bring him back, because for whatever reason, Watkins has been huge in the playoffs and has been a go-to guy in the playoffs for Patrick Mahomes. Even though the regular season numbers out there, you're still looking at someone who's nearing, double digit in the millions of yearly salary, because this is what Sammy Watkins is in Kansas City for. Last season's playoff run averaged nearly 100 yards per game, 14 catches for 288 yards and a touchdown. In the Super Bowl, had those 6 catches for 98 yards. You see the big one right here that helped kind of spark that comeback. So if Sammy's healthy, I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to end up being a big X factor and have an impact on this game.
I like it. Sammy Watkins used to be a top-line receiver, but now when you're on a team that's got this many weapons, you get relegated to X Factor status. I like it.
Let's go Buccaneers side. X Factor for the Bucs.
X Factor for the Buccaneers. I am going with Ryan Suckup, the kicker. We did this thing. Listen, doesn't get more X Factor than special teams or kicker.
Point.
And we did this segment on Good Morning Football Weekend last week where we talked about what kind of impact the Buccaneers playing in their home stadium would have. Now, you're not going to have the full gamut of fans, so you take away the home field advantage, but it's more about knowing where the play clock is and knowing some of the finer points about the stadium. And to me, it's going to be about the wins. The wins there can be tricky. Opposing kickers have had their issues in Raymond James Stadium somewhere in the range of about like 75%, whereas elsewhere in the National Football League, it's 80+% for field goals made. So, Suckup and Butker are going to have to deal with the same wins. I get it. But if you know them, if you realize where some of those gusts might be coming from that maybe visiting kickers who aren't there all the time might realize, perhaps Suckup winds up being the guy that makes the difference in the kicking game.
I'm going Bradley Pinion, punter for the Bucs, because of the. I'm not going Bradley Pinion. I am going to go with a more obvious choice. That would be X Factor. Hey, if you can pin him inside that 10, it's going to flip that field. No, I'm going to go Antonio Brown. And again, I'm taking the low-hanging fruit. You talked about Antonio Brown yesterday, and we know why Tom Brady had kind of, jumped on that behind the scenes, not to the media soapbox, certainly to the higher-ups, Jason Light and those guys at the Bucs, that he wanted Antonio Brown here. He's a difference maker. He is an elite of elite receivers, has done it year in and year out, has led this league in catches and receptions. And even if it's one catch, if it's 2 catches, you just see the juice, man. That guy is totally different than anyone else on the field. I mean, it's not quite Tyreek Hill level speed, but that's the kind of difference that Brown can make, especially if they're going to double Mike Evans, especially if he's got to look elsewhere when he gets to the red zone. As someone who's done it before, certainly not going to be affected by the stage and would make a huge difference, even with Chris Godwin and Gronk and Cam Brate, and I can just go on and do the name soup thing. But I'm going to suggest that Antonio Brown, healthy or not, just being on the field is going to be a huge advantage for the Bucs, or at least a huge boost to the Bucs offense.
All right, Sammy Watkins, despite being a number 1 receiver before and a high draft pick, I gave you X Factor status on that one. I don't know if I can do it for Antonio Brown. He might be he's a little higher in the alphabet. A-B. It doesn't get higher in the alphabet than A-B, right? So X Factor's usually, so I'll think about it. I'll let you know by the end of the show.
I've been humiliated once again. All right. When we return, and that was prepared Be prepared. Presented by Castrol Edge. And I was not prepared for X Factor status. When we return, one of the league's dominant defenders, Darius Leonard, weighs in on the Super Bowl, his perceptions, and dadgummit, he's going to share some of his thoughts of that single season with Phillip Rivers, who just called it a career. All right, how about adding a little excitement to this year's Super Bowl? You can play Pick'em Party, the NFL's new free-to-play game presented by Caesars Rewards to win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to next year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Go ahead, visit NFL.com/pickparty to learn more. Well, nobody would argue that Darius Leonard has been one of the MVPs of that Colts menacing defense, a two-time first-team All-Pro, a two-time Pro Bowler, and Leonard stopped by Super Bowl Live to talk up playing a single season with Phillip Rivers and why he wouldn't be sad if he didn't have to face Deshaun Watson twice a year.
What was it like getting a chance to play with Phillip Rivers and what now we know was his last year in the NFL?
Man, it was everything that everybody said, man. It was amazing. Not even just, his trash talking ability. When I say he talked trash to hurt your feelings. He talked trash to get in your head. And it was amazing of, the things that he would say without any curse words or anything. Like, he's just a great trash talker. Like, it is so crazy. But him as a person, he's a great guy. He's a great leader. And, he's a great quarterback. And then just talking to him, learning from him, playing linebacker, facing him every day, man. It was an honor to go against a Hall of Famer day in and day out and be able to just talk trash with and against him on a daily basis.
Well, you went against the greatest trash talker, in my opinion, of all time. This guy, the Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, in a family feud battle, active players against some legends out there. Tell us how this all went down.
Man, it was a great show, man. They came out hot, and when we young stars, we took an L. We did take an L from the vets. But one thing Darius did against Malcolm Irvin, when we went head to head up there with Steve, I had to let him know that the defense had run the show. I just had to let him know.
Hey, we did have fun, man. It was great. And what was great, real fun, was in the back, getting a chance just to hang out and be around each other. You guys getting a chance to see some of the Hall of Famers, and we're getting a chance to share with you guys when we were in that stage where you guys are and how to get to where we ultimately ended up. There's one last thing, though, I want to ask. What do you make of the situation? Because he's in the AFC South with you. What do you make of what's going on with Deshaun Watson?
You know, I mean, as a player now, you know, understanding the game and understanding that this is a true business. And just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean that you're happy. Just like as a player, you can get traded any day of the week without any questions asked. So why not in the opportunity, if you want to get traded, why can't you voice your same opinion and not get any backlash as you would if you get traded by these same owners? So, I mean, it sucks as a player that you do everything in your will for the organization, but, you know, sometimes, you know, things doesn't go the way that y'all want things to go. And he's one great quarterback too. And, you know, hopefully I don't have to face him twice a year, but hopefully he can land somewhere and just continue to have a great career.
So we go from the defensive side to one of the most dominant offensive players in all of the land. And this is not just a single season, but get a look here. Most receiving yards by a tight end in his first 8 seasons. Travis Kelsey has not just led the field, but, man, look at that gap between he and what's likely a first ballot Hall of Famer, Antonio Gates. An extra 1,300 yards receiving. He has changed the position, and it's something we've dug into these last couple days, Mike. Do you think the Bucs will be able to slow him down? And if they are to slow him down, how would they do it?
No, it have to be physical. Have to get him at the line of scrimmage and do not let him get off and get into rhythm because that is what the New England Patriots have done over the years. I talked about what they have done, and you'll see it here. You know, as soon as he tries to get into his route, almost from a standpoint of the opposite of what a tight end would do to chip a pass rusher. That's not Travis Kelsey. But that's what you would do. That's what you would do if you wanted to make sure that he just didn't get down the field, get that long stride going, and get to a point where he's got your linebackers on skates or whoever's covering him. So it starts with the physicality at the line of scrimmage, and then somebody over the top to help, by the way, because if he gets past that, he could still be dangerous.
Yeah, I'll go, you know, just kind of picking up on what you started there. And I look at the division that he plays in. So I look at the Bucs and I see uber athletic linebackers, Levante David, Devin White, and then I see physical safeties in Whitehead and Winfield Jr. All 3 of them have been listed on the injury report at some time over these 2 weeks. Now, if they're healthy, it's pretty much up to those 3, right? Or those 4, I should say, if you put White in. Because just look at the division, and you can see how teams draft to win their division. The Chargers, Derwin James, what did they do? They sacrificed a second-round pick to jump up and get a super athletic linebacker in Kenneth Murray. You look at the Broncos, and they've got Simmons and Jackson as their safeties, and both of them are extremely physical safeties. The Raiders just spent a ton of cash in the offseason on Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton, not to mention use a first-round pick on Jonathan Abrams. That's what you need. You need either an extremely physical safety slash corner that's big-bodied, or you need a super athletic linebacker. And kind of going back to the original question, do you think they'll be able to do it? Well, if they're healthy, man, it certainly looks like the Bucs have the cast that can at least give it a shot.
Well, this is why they got those guys. This is why they drafted these guys. And this is why a lot of folks around the league are saying, do we need to do that? Is the game changing? You need more of these linebackers that can run and can cover and can get out in space. Yeah, you're right. The Buccaneers have those guys. So you're right. If a team's equipped to do it, it's Tampa.
Yeah, and you know, when you look at the other sideline in Tampa, and while he's not a tight end, he is certainly one of the most unique built wide receivers in the league. I mean, Mike Evans is an absolute load. Certainly you put maybe 10 or 15 more pounds on him, and he would look right at home in that tight end position. You see most consecutive seasons with 1,000 receiving yards, 1,000 plus. To start a career, 7 straight. And look at the names below that. Randy Moss, A.J. Green, and Michael Thomas. Darn impressive. So let's flip it to Mike Evans. Do you think he will have a dominant performance in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think he's the guy that could potentially go off here for Tampa, and a guy that Tom Brady has looked at, especially in key moments down the red zone. He's had a chance to get healthy after suffering what really could have been a nasty knee injury, but was something that affected him, but didn't knock him out of the lineup. But yeah, clearly hasn't been his full self, and now gets that bye week. It's nice to get that rest in there. So yeah, this is a guy that I think that the Kansas City secondary has played okay, but let's see them now match up against a team with multiple top targets, and how are they going to handle Evans? If you don't get home to Tom Brady, he's going to be able to get the ball downfield to Evans. I see a couple of big catches for Evans coming in this game.
Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't necessarily, and this has kind of been Mike Evans' entire season with Tom Brady, right? He's really excelled when the field shrinks. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's giant. He's going to post you up, and corners just can't deal with him. You mentioned, whether it's Hamilton or Breland or Fenton or Shavarius Ward, I think they're going to have to commit safety resources to help out on Mike Evans. He's just too big. I mean, there's a reason why the guy's got 1,000 yards in 7 straight seasons. There's a reason why he's double-digit touchdowns, because once that field shrinks and he gets into that area, Tom Brady's looking for him for a reason. It's just so hard. And it doesn't matter if he gets 40 or 50 yards. If guy puts up 2 touchdowns, that's a huge game. So, yeah, I'll agree. I'll concur and say, yes, Mike Evans will have a huge game in the Super Bowl.
Spags is going to bring the pressure that takes bodies away from covering people, which means fewer chances to double team. I think he's going to get singled up, and I think he's going to see the football plenty.
All right, we'll step aside here, and remember for a moment he was the unanimous pick for MVP, but it all unraveled in the second half of the season, culminating in a loss to the Rams at home in the wild card round. Russell Wilson trying to shake off that disappointment this offseason, and he'll check in next. Can't get enough of the eye candy. Look at all those boats docked. Oh, we got yachts, we got sailboats, we got cigarette boats, we got whalers, we got dinghies, we got Duffies. We are your boat show of record here on Super Bowl today. And speaking of boats, this has nothing to do with boats. It's Russell Wilson. Although I guess the Puget Sound, right? You can take a boat out there. He was cooking this season, set a career high in passing touchdowns, had 40 most passing yards since 2016. But despite those prolific numbers, the season ended in disappointment, and of course that means Russell is hungry for more. He joined our Kurt Warner on NFL Total Access about how to improve come 2021.
Just ask you, as you're going into the offseason, what's that one thing that you've kind of, pointed out to say, hey, this is what I want to be better at next year?
I think, obviously, you never want to give the ball up. I think that's, something historically I've, I've usually been great at, like that. So I think, I'm not concerned about that. That's just a fact. And I think, but also we've been able to score a lot of touchdowns and all that. But if we can eliminate, several of those, I think that will help. I think also too, I think that, really, I think that with Shane and I, we've been talking this offseason about just really, being able to go after it and not be, timid about it, and just really, use all our players in all different facets, all different ways, really causing, havoc from defense as much as possible.
Well, let's get into the Super Bowl a little bit. I mean, you got one guy in Tom Brady that's playing in his 10th Super Bowl, and the other guy's playing in his second Super Bowl in his first 3 years starting, which is something that you also did. But it's been 6 long years, I know, since you've been in the Super Bowl last. These guys make it look too easy, don't they? I mean, they're not letting people know how tough it is to get to the Super Bowl.
I think Tom has been obviously remarkable. You and I, been to Super Bowls, and we know how hard it is to get back and to get there just as a whole. You got to have great players around you. You got to have just a great mojo. Just everything's got to mesh and go. All things got to go well together, right? And he's found a way to do that over and over again. I think the thing about this year that makes Tom really remarkable is obviously, being 20 plus years in New England, coming here to Tampa. Him and Bruce Arians, they said, he wanted to go to, Tom wanted to go to Bruce Arians because he knew he's going to give him a chance to make plays and give him the rock and not be timid with it and go for it. Tom took that chance, and it's definitely worked out for him. But he's also got great players around him. Obviously, guys like Evans, he's got Godwin, he's got Gronkowski around him. He's got obviously Antonio Brown now. To add him to the mix, he's got so many other weapons around him that really allow him to play, and they're blocking it tremendously well for him. Up front to allow him to throw the ball down the field, and he's throwing the ball down the field more than he's probably ever thrown it. Besides that time he had Randy Moss, that was helpful. He's letting it go, and those guys are making plays for him.
You're always doing great things with Bose too. I got my Bose ear pods in. I know you got your Bose headphones on. Tell me what you're doing with Bose this week.
Well, speaking about giving back, Kurt, I've been with Bose for 8 years now, I believe it is. It's been amazing, the relationship that I have with them. But what's been really cool was today, for example, one of the coolest things I've been able to do is, we were hopped on Looped, and we were able to have these cool dialogues with these healthcare workers. And we were able to honor these healthcare workers today, by giving them this really special kit. Inside that kit, they were able to open it up right in front of me and have cool dialogue and, big fans and everything else. But what was cool is they were able to pull out some cool goodies that we got for them. We were able to give them a big old Bose TV speaker so they could watch the game, watch their TV shows, their favorite TV shows and all. But also we gave them some Super Bowl merchandise. We were able to give them, we were able to partner up and find some local businesses too as well that we were able to help out and give some love to as well. So we gave them some gift cards from there. Bose and I have been able to do some great things over the years for the youth, also for now healthcare workers, and some great things along the way.
So, Mike, we depart from our Super Bowl conversation analysis just for a quick second, because it was the trade that kind of reminded us that we do have that trade season in the NFL. Matthew Stafford goes to the Rams. Just, do you think that shakes up your personal quarterback rankings of the NFC West? Who would you put atop between those 4 teams?
Yeah, not at the top. I mean, I'd still put Russell Wilson there, and I am old enough to remember when he was the MVP favorite early in the season, and then things kind of went south. And they bring in Shane Waldron as their new offensive coordinator, and everybody says, well, why are we bringing a guy from a passing game that struggled? The Rams traded Jared Goff. What does that tell you about what the coaching staff thinks was the issue there? They were still scheming. They schemed stuff up early in the season. I covered a game against the Eagles where the Rams were just scheming up things beautifully. And I think that's going to complement what Russell Wilson does extremely well. And so I think Russell's going to come back and play just as good as he did early in the season in 2021, if not better.
Yeah, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be overreacting guy and take Stafford and just try. You know what it is? It's essentially confirmation bias. It's all those years of it's not Matt Stafford, it's the Lions. It's the fact he's in a division with Aaron Rodgers. That's why he hasn't been to the playoffs more. They can't get him a running game, so he's constantly under pressure, and they're bringing extra bodies because they don't respect the run year in and year out. I feel like the pairing of Matthew Stafford with the brilliance and play calling of Sean McVay. And look, those are, I get it. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are not Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but man, Robert Woods is tough as nails, and he runs beautiful routes. They've got a great pass-catching tight end in Tyler Higbee. I think in the fact that he's going to have a legitimate run game, look, that's the funny thing about Sean McVay, right? Is everybody thinks, oh, it's Air Coryell, it's spread it out and throw it all over. No, it starts with the run game, man. It's outside zone and it's pre-snap motion, and that's what sets everything up. I just feel like special things are going to happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the cheese and I'm gonna make a fool of myself. But thankfully, we're so far away, no one will ever remember. I'm gonna go.
No,
Matthew
yeah,
Stafford.
You're good. You're good. The internet never forgets.
Exactly.
I still think your prediction is good. He's going to play well. I'd have to go with Russ.
Makes sense. As you said, it wasn't too long ago. He was the unanimous favorite for MVP. That brings us to Epic Comebacks, presented by Hyperice, the official recovery tech partner of the NFL. And today, yes, exactly today, the 5th of February, is the 4-year anniversary of the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. In Super Bowl 51, Tom Brady and the Patriots trailed the Falcons 28-3 with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter when the magic began. James White for a touchdown. Fourth quarter comes around. Brady, Amendola, 6-yard score, cut the lead to 28-20. A miracle catch by Julian Edelman late in the fourth helped fueled the Pats' rally. White would later score the game-winning touchdown in overtime. The Patriots win 34-28, and Tom Brady earned his 5th ring. That is certainly the most memorable takeaway from Super Bowl 51. But as we remember back 4 years, is there anything else that you remember, maybe just about that week, about that game, about that afternoon, Mike?
Well, yeah, personally, Gaga put on a hell of a halftime, but to me it was the pregame, actually. It's funny, she was taking pictures on the field. She was posing, and everybody wanted to get a piece. You know, Mike Silver went over and took a picture with her because our buddy Silver, I mean, you know, he just does what he wants to do, and I was an avatar on Twitter for quite some time. I, on the other hand, I have a connection with her father. Her father's cousin was one of my neighbors growing up. So I said, oh, where's Mr. Germanata? I want to go meet him. And so I'm talking to him, and his wife is there, and all of a sudden everybody goes silent. And I'm like, what's going on? And I realize Gaga's right behind me. So I turn around, and she's just looking at me. And I said, hi, Mike Garofalo, nice to meet you. She's like, hi, how are you? And then everybody just kind of dispersed. And then I had a hit on TV like 3 minutes later. I was rattled. I was starstruck. Oh, that's funny. I really was. I mean, it doesn't often happen. I mean, we get the chance to interact with a lot of athletes, so we don't get starstruck in that regard. But, like, that was completely unexpected. And still, like, one of our producers actually, in preparation for this show coming on Sunday, reminded me of that. And I said, thanks, I'm not over it yet.
Yeah, it is funny. It's perfectly put. Whatever field you're in, you can be standing next to Joe Montana and Jim Brown, and it doesn't affect you. And then all of a sudden, a pop star creeps up behind you. And your heart skips a beat. I'll tell you what I remember is, you know, we were out there on the streets, you know, doing the show live, surrounded by a whole mess of people. I remember T.O. Coming on the show after learning that he wasn't going to get into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot and becoming a sympathetic figure. And a lot of people taking on Hall of Fame voters and saying, clearly there's an agenda. You can't argue this man's greatness. It's ridiculous that he's not in the Hall of Fame. It was the first time that the support tilted so heavily in T.O.'s direction that I could remember.
You know, listen, you're talking about epic comebacks. T.O. being a sympathetic figure, one of the great comebacks of all time.
Yes, and that was Epic Comebacks, presented by Hyperice, the official recovery tech partner of the NFL. Coming up, our picks for who's going to win on Sunday. Finally, we can take that deep breath and share and put our name on a winner and a score. We'll do that when we return as you're watching Super Bowl Today, presented by Uber Eats. it's time for Tonight I'll Be Eating, presented by Uber Eats.
And our producers during the call said they're curious where I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to
I am
compare it
curious.
to Ronald Jones. I know you're curious as well, Money. Like the bean dip, if you're not disciplined, he'll run right through you.
Well done. Well done. I don't know how you follow it up, the Ronald Jones bean dip comparison, but we'll try. We're talking food that we're going to be eating on Sunday and who it reminds us of. I'll start here because I could not follow that up yesterday. Much like you and the way you reacted having Gaga standing right behind you, it affected me, and it still affects me today. This is easy for me, and it's for Andy Reid, and it's the cheeseburger. Why? Because you can't. Look, there's a lot of food you can mess up. You can mess up pizza by putting terrible stuff on top of it. You can mess up hot dogs by putting ketchup on them. You can't mess up a cheeseburger. It can't be done. You can put peanut butter on it. You can put avocado on it. You can put whatever brand of cheese you want on it. You can go with that Thousand Island mayonnaise ketchup mix with relish in it, and I'm fine with that. So if you really want just to kind of play it down the middle and cast a wide net, to me, that's what the cheeseburger is. We all want to get cute and make that great spread come Super Bowl Sunday. But, man, if you just threw out a platter of cheeseburgers, who's upset? Nobody's upset with that.
Andy Reid ain't upset. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to be, I'll go rum raisin ice cream. And I'm going to stick with the coach theme. It reminds me of Bruce Arians. And it ain't because of the raisins, okay? Matter of fact, I only went with a food here because it's what we're eating, not what we're drinking. But, you know, Andy Reid did promise last year after winning the game that he was going to get the world's biggest cheeseburger. He was asked, what happens if you win again? He said, well, I'm going to get a double cheeseburger. You think Andy's getting after it? Wait till you see what Bruce Arians does with the rum raisin minus the raisin. I mean, the man is, in a lot of ways, a literal pirate. As a matter of fact, he said during an interview one time that if I die on the field, have a drink in my honor, basically. Right. And, you know, the no risk it, no biscuit, that's the pirate mentality. The Buccaneers, they're pirates. What do pirates drink? Rum. Hey, Bruce. You win this one, because I know how you celebrate the average victory. You win this one, get after it, my friend.
Spiced rum, indeed. As that was Tonight I'll Be Eating or drinking. You got to do both, right? It's presented by Uber Eats. Let's, before we wrap it, let's get a couple bits of news in here. Here is from the Kansas City Chiefs official Twitter feed. Willie Gay, Eric Fisher are officially out for Sunday's game. Sammy Watkins elevated to questionable, going back to our X Factor conversation. And this from our friend at Rap Sheedy and Rappaport for the Bucs safeties. Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield, along with linebacker Levante David, have no game status. All will play. Meanwhile, Antonio Brown and tight end Cam Brate are officially questionable. So great news on the defensive side of the ball for the Bucs. Keep an eye on Antonio and Brate. All right, let's get to it. You ready? Who is going to win? Prediction plus score is the way we do it on Super Bowl today, Mike.
Yeah, the more I've thought about this, the more I've thought about this over 2 weeks, the more I've talked myself into the Buccaneers here. And not just because of the Tom Brady factor. Well, the Tom Brady trickle-down factor, that NFC Championship game, I'm telling you, it was the eye test. They looked like the old Patriots teams in the way that they played smart football. They pounced on opportunities. They played from ahead. They didn't beat themselves. I think they're playing excellent right now. And the area that I thought was the weakness, which is their secondary, has become in a lot of ways a strength here. So I think Todd Bowles is going to scheme some stuff up to slow down the Chiefs. I'm going Buccaneers 31, Chiefs 27.
Ooh, 31-27. 58 points scored in the Super Bowl. I am with you. I'm going to go Bucs. I think losing both of those tackles with that front four is going to be felt. That is going to play. I think that's the centerpiece, the storyline, the main plot line of Super Bowl 55. So I am going Bucs, but I'm going to go 10 points, actually over 10 points fewer. I'm going to go 13 points fewer. I'm going to go 24-21. That it will be a more defensive-like battle. They'll control the clock. They'll run the ball. Bucs get the 3-point victory, 24-21. Let's wrap it up on a lighter note, as we have both taken the Bucs. How about a bold prediction? Something you predict for your personal. It could be game related, could be personally related. Just a bold prediction for Super Bowl 55.
Well, it's my first Super Bowl at home since, coincidentally, the last time the Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl. I've covered every Super Bowl since then, but thanks COVID, I'm home this year. So I'm going to see how the other half lives, and I'm going to make a aggressive, bold prediction that I fall asleep before the end of the game. How about that?
There you go. I love it.
Not because of the game, just because I'm
no,
going to sink into the couch and mid-game nap.
Yeah. Well, I will. It's a similar bold prediction because I do it every year. I go into the game and I say, pace yourself. Don't get after the red hot dip too quickly. Don't eat all the wings. Don't eat all the spinach artichoke. Remember, there's a main course coming at halftime, and sure enough, I'm going to say it's like middle second quarter. I lean back and I go, oh, I did it again. I did it again. and I put my hands somewhere like right around here, and I'm like, oh. So that is my bold prediction that I cannot help myself. And again, so be careful. Take warning from someone who has had many of these Super Bowl Sundays with friends and family. It is very easy for that food to get on top of you and for you to fall asleep by the end of the contest. We've really enjoyed it. Mike, thanks. I enjoyed it. Thanks to all of you that have been watching for these past 3 days. Stick around. Don't move, because right here on NFL.com, 6 p.m. Eastern, it is going to be Game Day View. You're going to have Hawk, Cynthia, Rosie. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Again, thanks again so much for watching Super Bowl today with us. We really enjoyed doing it. We hope you enjoyed the program as well. And enjoy some more scenics for those of you preparing for a polar vortex snowstorm the next 48 hours. Thanks for watching Super Bowl today, presented by Uber Eats.